welcome to the latest edition of Doorstep History, which is coming to you once again from our new surroundings here at the Coffin Works in the Jewellery Quarter.
On today's show, we'll be looking at the Birmingham Lives History Fair.
And we'll also be looking at Vikings versus Saxons in the Battle of Woden'sfield.
And another battle of sorts, a football battle this time, over winning and losing the FA Cup. But first... So with me is Keith Clenton, who's the organiser of the event. So Keith, tell us a little bit about what it's all about.
It's all about stall holders showing photos and memorabilia all on Birmingham. We've got different stall holders like the Banking Museum, the Pen Museum, Doorstep History Society, Heartlands History Society, the West Midlands Fire Brigade Society, and you could just keep going on. Well, people like to look at the history of Birmingham and how it all started, and they just like coming to have a look at all the photos and memorabilia. You can buy books and postcards, and we started this 9 years ago at the Radisson Hotel, and it was mainly for history societies, but then as time went on we went from history societies to history groups as well, and this is why it's quite a success, and I do this once a year.
My name's Trevor Cobden, and I'm interested in all local history to do with Birmingham and the city of Birmingham and suburbs. Local interest that goes back to the 50s and beyond that. I get lots of papers sent to me from different parts of the country, and the one particular story I was sent was to do with Cardomi Cafe, which had premises on Birmingham New Street and Stroke Corporation Street, and I've done a little bit of research to find out where it exactly was. I had an idea where it was, and the smells and everything that I remember of the day.
Yes, well, I'm John Frierson, and I've just produced a small booklet about another well-known Birmingham gentleman called John Frierson. Not well known, but in fact he, in Victorian times, he brought the half-day holiday to Birmingham. He was an industrialist, a small-scale industrialist. He invented or patented the crosshead screw. He was very much involved with the early socialist movement from David Owen in the early days, and then the Owenite movement, and later was very much involved with the cooperative movement. And he wrote for the cooperative magazine, was involved with that organisation.
And we'll have more from the History Fair later in the programme, but for now, here's Tom.
Now, as many of you probably know, a lot of place names and street names in the region are taken from historical connotations, just like Wensfield, which was taken from Woden'sfield, and there was a historical battle there.
Catching him, and he's got
significance of the battle being here. This was on the route out of the Severn Valley, which is the route the Vikings used coming into this area, going out to the East Midlands, over the old Roman Road and up to Derby and Leicester. And that's why the Vikings was caught here by the Saxons, led by Edward the Elder, Athelflaed and her husband Aldred. Now, at the end of the day, we've always been in conflict with Tettenhall as to the battle being there or the battle being here. Some saying the battle was at Wensfield, some saying two battles. At the end of the day, there's two battles, one in Tettenhall, one in Wensfield.
Yes, my name's Jarl Ulf, and I'm the Jarl of these Vikings here today. The group's called Jorvik Vikinga, and we're always looking for new members. And you can find us on Facebook if you're interested, learning how to fight like the Vikings did, or maybe taking on some of the crafts that the Vikings did.
The Jorvik Vikinga walls are coming! Feed the walls! Feed the walls! The Jorvik Vikinga walls are coming! Ganga! Ganga! And we will spare you, and your souls will be spared in the afterlife. What say you?
Not a chance, Christian. We fight for the one-eyed God.
Hang on to ya!
If we have to meet him in Valhalla, we will.
Vikings advance and the Saxons advance to meet them. Push through the Saxon army, the shield wall again, attempting to find a weakness to force a way through. Now it's the turn of the Saxons to attack the weakened Viking army.
We want the Saxons.
Here, the army numbers. It's King Ulf there at the front, fighting with his best men, but still drawing back.
I love sword fight. Oh, cool. Whoever wins this, I'm on their team. Oh,
I think they've got to express their opinions.
Yes! Kid today.
As King Ulf calls to the best.
Liz! What do you want? Oh, man!
The Saxons have won the day. The three Vikings being died.
Now that was an exciting battle, and I'm glad the Saxons won that one. But now we head back to the Birmingham Heritage Fair and we'll meet more of the groups that were exhibiting there.
The Trust is concerned researching and recording the jewellery quarter history and heritage. A major part of the jewellery quarter, of course, the two cemeteries there, Key Hill and Warstone Lane.
So what is it that you're doing that's part of the lottery bid then?
Well, one of the projects is that we are producing a virtual tour of the both cemeteries, which will allow people to visit the cemeteries from anywhere, literally in the world. The cemeteries include a lot of the great and good of Birmingham, but also internationally famous people.
The Pen Museum is about one of Birmingham's major industries, which was the making of the steel dip pen nib. And this trade went on for 150 years, started in the early 1800s, went on to the late 1940s, early 50s when the biro came out, and then this trade went downhill quite quickly. But in the 150 years, there was over 100,000 different types of pen nib made, and they were turned out like chaff. Gillett, who was one of the major manufacturers, in his factory in Frederick Street, used to turn out 150 million nibs a year. And they used to say that in those days, in the mid-1800s, wherever a group of people in the world were writing with a dip pen, 3/4 of them would be using one that was made in Birmingham. So it was one of Birmingham's major trades. At the height, there was over 7,000 people employed in it.
So there's a museum, isn't there? A pen museum. So where is the museum?
The Pen Museum is in Frederick Street. It's in the Argent Centre, which was an old pen factory, but it was a gold nib pen factory. William Wiley's gold pen and pencil, he made pen holders and pencil holders, and it's just opposite Gillett's factory.
After the break, we'll be reflecting on the changing face of New Street Station. And we'll also be meeting this man with Aston connections. I wonder if you know who he is. Welcome back to Doorstep History. Now we look at the changing face of New Street Station. So the press reported that it's got the largest glass arched roof in the world. It took nearly 7 years to build and it cost £500,000. You're right, we're not talking about this one, which cost £750 million. We're talking about the original, which opened in 1854. At 80 feet high and 212 feet wide, it was the largest single-span glass and iron arch in the country. It was also a quarter of a mile in length and was described as one of the greatest achievements of science in our time. No wonder some people called it Grand Central. The famous Bradshaw's Railway Guide of 1863 noted the interior of the station deserves attention for its magnitude. It's composed of iron and glass without the slightest support except for that afforded by the pillars on either side. If the reader notices the turmoil and the bustle created by the excitement of the arrival and the departure of trains, the trampling of crowds of passengers, the transport of luggage, the ringing of bells, and the noise of 200 or 300 porters and workmen, he will retain a recollection of the extraordinary scene witnessed daily at Birmingham's Central Railway Station. Today, the modern equivalent saw 24,000 people pass through the shopping centre area within 3 hours of it opening. After wartime damage, much of the roof was removed. Then came a 1960s redevelopment plan, which you could say transformed the area completely. It can be seen in these official British Rail postcards. It was essentially a 7.5 acre slab of concrete which was dropped onto the station, supported by 200 columns, and it was topped off by another layer of concrete on which they plonked a car park. The result, a perfectly dingy hole that became the Birmingham Shopping Centre. This once stately looking hotel, which adjoined the station, was replaced first by this, and now this. Without the use of a map to show how the area once looked, it's almost impossible to compare these views. Pedestrians accessed via the ramp from New Street and scurried along into the centre, disappearing beneath the floor of the shopping centre to get to the station. Concourse and 12 platforms opened in 1967 to great acclaim, and for a while it was the state-of-the-art go-ahead symbol of Birmingham. So in the 1970s, the city was happy to show off in its visitors guide the Birmingham Shopping Centre. In the mid-80s, this leaflet said it was the Birmingham Shopping Centre, which was your complete shopping stop above New Street Station. As tastes changed, the Palisades, as it was renamed, began to look tired and dingy. A number of mini facelifts didn't really help to improve it. Back in 2003, the Country Life magazine said that New Street Station was the second worst architectural eyesore in the country. Only wind farms were worse. So the winds of change blew away the old and in came the new. Today you can still enter via the ramp, but what you see when you get inside is completely different to the way it used to be. In case you didn't get the chance to count them, I can tell you that there are around 60 shops, many of them independent concerns. But the key store is the John Lewis department store, which opened in style. Today's complex handles 170,000 people per day. It has the capacity to cope with up to 300,000, all of whom will be using a concourse that's 5 times larger than it was before. It's worth reflecting that accessibility is a key factor, and the station has many access points, many of which weren't available in the old station. It was once a block which broke up pedestrian flow. Pedestrians needed to walk around it to get from one side of the city to the other. But now people are encouraged to travel through it, thus opening up the south side area of the city and enhancing the possibility of future investment in that area. But for now, things are definitely on the up, and people are hoping But the station will stay like this without any more redevelopment for another 50 or 60 years or more. That, of course, is unless a planner or a politician gets an idea that's above his station. Now, I wondered if earlier in the programme you worked out who this is. We gave you some clues. It is Sir Thomas Holt, who lived at Aston Hall and gave his name to the Holt End at Villa Park. Now, as it so happens, Aston Villa were in the news exactly 120 years ago this month. Now, this is sad news for Blues fans, but it's a well-known fact that Aston Villa have actually lost the FA Cup more times than Birmingham City have won it. Thousands of followers of football will hear with consternation and dismay that the trophy, which is so keenly striven for each football season, has been stolen. When Villa won the cup, the juvenile portion of the community shouted themselves hoarse, and the older enthusiasts said they expected it. The 1895 FA Cup final at Crystal Palace was won by Aston Villa, who beat West Midland rivals West Bromwich Albion by the narrowest of margins. Their 1-0 victory meant the FA Cup was heading to Birmingham. In the post-cup final euphoria, Aston Villa, through their chairman William McGregor, arranged for the trophy to be displayed in a shop window at the nearby football boot manufacturer William Shillcock, who was a friend of the club. The shop, now demolished, stood on Newtown Row, almost opposite Lower Tower Street. During the night of the 11th of September, someone climbed onto the roof, cut a hole in the ceiling and lowered himself into the shop. The person collected the cup, unbolted the front door and strode away. The cup was never seen again. The Aston and East Birmingham News declared there had been a daring robbery. Thieves have laid violent hands upon the cup, it said. And other papers said that Aston was in mourning, and the average fan will look upon this as a little short of a national disaster. Mr. Shillcock immediately offered a £10 reward for the cup's recovery. A famous confession appeared in the Sunday Pictorial newspaper on the day I was born in February 1958, 63 years after the theft. A burglar owned up to having stolen the cup, but it later appeared he may have only been trying to steal some limelight. This excellent Villa publication, produced on the centenary of the theft, contained a number of theories as to what had happened to the cup. It's widely thought it was immediately taken to a nearby brewhouse where it was melted down to be made into counterfeit coins. The FA fined Aston Villa and the money was used to purchase a replacement cup. That cup was made in a factory on Livery Street in Birmingham by Howard Vaughan, a former Aston Villa player who was in the team when they first won the FA Cup in 1887. The replacement cost £25 and was purchased a few years ago by former Birmingham City chairman David Gold for £480,000. The cup that Villa lost has never been recovered, no culprits apprehended, and 120 years on, the mystery of who stole the cup has yet to be solved. A Birmingham Civic Society blue plaque has been unveiled at St Albans Church at Highgate in Birmingham. It's in recognition of the work of the artist Kate Bunce. She designed the altar screen for the church, working alongside her sister Myra. The Bunces were the daughter of John Thackeray Bunce, the former Birmingham Post editor and patron of the Birmingham Museum Art Gallery. Kate was a key member of the Royal Birmingham Society of Artists and the Royal Academy in the late Victorian era. Bunce's work was largely decorative, but her paintings displayed strong figure drawings and modest colour. From 1910 until her death in 1927, she concentrated on large screens for church altars, not only in Britain, but also in Canada. In a future programme, we'll be looking in detail at the work of the Civic Society, which has recently awarded Renaissance Awards to a school building in Harborne and also to the Coffin Works.
Now, if you or a family member have any stories from across the region, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with us via Twitter @BigCenterTV, on Facebook, look for Big Centre TV, or email us on our email address history@bigcentre.tv.
So that's it from this edition of Doorstep History. We hope you've enjoyed the programme as much as we have. Thank you for watching and goodbye.